Hello and welcome back to Quarterlight. Today we're going to look at a little bit of an unusual British classic car. It's the Reliant Robin. Now, the Reliant Robin was first manufactured in October 1973 as a replacement for the Reliant Regal. There was many different versions. There was the Mark 1, there was the Mark 2, there was the Mark 3, although the Mark 1, the original version, is what we're going to look at today. In many ways, the Reliant Robin was the perfect car for the 70s in the UK. There was a fuel crisis at the time, and this was a very fuel efficient car. It was also had a relatively low starting price. But on top of that, it was produced with a galvanised chassis with a fiberglass shell. That's right, it really didn't rust. It was made of fiberglass, and that really stood out from other 70s cars. In Quarterlight, we'll often talk about these fantastic cars in the 70s, but sadly, very poor rust resistant. They really did rust away in no time at all, which is why none of them really survived unless they were restored at some point in time. The Reliant Robin was the exception, so like I would say, another perfect car for the 70s. On top of that, the Reliant Robin was a great design. It was a very stable design, despite what some people think. You watch such entertainment programs as Top Gear, which had a Reliant Robin that they actually rigged to actually roll over on every corner. It wasn't like that at all. It was a very clever, well-balanced car. The brochure we're going to look at today, like I say, it's going to be for the Mark 1 Reliant Robin. And the unusual thing is, this particular brochure is dated September 1973. 1 month before the car was actually manufactured. But without further ado, let's have a look at that brochure and see what we can see. So here is that very early 1973 Reliant Robin brochure, and as it says, a new idea from the ground up. There was a few different versions. There was the standard Robin, the Super Robin, there was an Estate Robin, and there was a van version of the Robin. This brochure seems to just show the Super Robin, the more deluxe version. And of course the Robin was possibly one of the most famous and possibly even more successful three-wheelers of all time. So let's have a look inside the brochure and see what we can see. And here we are inside that first page of the Reliant Robin brochure. Now when we look through this, I kind of find there's lots of sort of like factual information about it, possibly because it is the first brochure for the Robin. And it talks here on the first page, the whole idea is new Robin. Someone once said that all that really great ideas are obvious once they've been pointed out. The idea of Robin is like that. It seems extraordinary that no one should have thought of it before, but nobody did. Robin is an economy saloon estate, the first of its kind, in versatility, in capacity, and above all, in economy. Robin is the most practical car on the roads of Britain today. And it mentions, like I say, this new idea, but it really isn't a new idea. The car before it, the Reliant Regal, was like a more basic version of this. This was really just an improvement on the Regal in many ways. But certainly, it certainly stood out on Britain's roads when it came out. Again, quite a factual information page in its text. The other thing I like about this brochure is what great colours it shows. There was a wide variety of colours you could get your Robin in. Now we're looking at a green one, the previous a yellow, of course. And that's one of the things I love about 70s cars in general. Nobody was scared about colour. Everyone seems very scared about colour these days. Greys, whites, blacks. That's what people want. But in the 70s, people really wanted colour. And I hope one day we go back to that again. Now it says here, Robin, a new idea about economy. There's a difference between an economy car and a cheap car. Robin is an economy car. And in some ways that's very true. It was around about £800 when it came out, so it wasn't a particularly cheap car. And that's sometimes what we forget. It wasn't really priced extremely cheaply by any stretch of the imagination, but it did have that rust resistant body, and it did have great fuel economy. Like it says here, when it first came out in 73, it had this 750cc engine in. It was a water-cooled 32 brake horsepower engine. So not exactly a fast car, you'd think at least, but because it was so light, it was faster than what you actually thought it was. And then in 1975 there was lots of improvements, and one of them improvements was it actually boosted up to 850cc. It then goes on today on this page to say, because it has 3 wheels and weighs under 8 cubic weight, it costs only £10 a year to licence, and it's saying ordinary cars cost £25. And then it goes on to say the fuel economy will give you up to 60 mile per gallon. Obviously that's the UK gallon, which was extremely good at the time. A fuel economy wasn't fantastic in the 70s, but this was certainly light years ahead of most cars in the time. And then amusingly it says at the bottom there, do not worry if you have no garage, glass fibre will come to no harm, left out all night. Very 70s again. Thinking again about the poor rust resistant and how much 70s cars rusted. It was certainly a concern for a lot of people. Next page now is showing Robin a new idea about luxury, and now we've got a blue Reliant Robin. And it's talking here about its luxurious features. We call this the comfort capsule. It gives you a remarkable, smooth, well-balanced ride. And it goes on to say, inside the Robin is impressive. It is much more spacious than you think it's going to be. Proof again that the design is right. And in the Super Robin, remember the Super Robin is like the deluxe version, it is more than a little luxurious. There's a deep pile carpet throughout, body contoured seats with generous upholstery, the trim to tone with the carpets. All these help to make the going good. You drive without stress, and it goes on to say there's a Synchromesh gearbox on all 4 gears. And this is a full modern safety specification with collapsible steering wheel and steering column and rocker switches. And indeed, it doesn't look luxurious today, of course, but at the time, it certainly had more equipment in there than even a lot of 4-wheel cars. So, to a certain extent, it was true what it's saying there. And then this next page goes on to say, Robin, a new idea about space. And he's kind of like talking about how much there's more space than you might think. And as you can see, the rear glass hinged up, almost like a hatchback. And of course, hatchbacks became a really big thing in the UK. So it was a very practical vehicle. And there's a nice sort of picture of the interior and that front dashboard, showing that, yeah, it was quite well equipped for the time. Now look at this page. Robin, a new idea about style, and what a fantastic 70s pink colour you could have got in the 70s. That would have really stood out. I do like it in that particular colour. He goes on to say, in any company, by any standard, Robin is an outstandingly good-looking car, and so it should be. It was styled by the Ogle Group, body designers for the Scimitar GTE and Bond Bug. It has the same sureness of touch and timeless elegance of line. Arriving by Robin, you get more than your share of admiring glances. There are two versions, Robin and Super Robin. The car shown in this leaflet is Super Robin, the luxury version. Mechanically, the two cars are identical. Both can have as factory fitted options, radio, laminated windscreen, cast alloy wheels and heated rear window. How fantastic. And here is the final back page of this Reliant Robin brochure from 1973. Now it says in here that it's showing all Super Robins. Now I'm not sure about this white one. Very hard to tell because this Super Robin has a lot of extras on it. These alloy wheels were all extras, etc. So it's very hard to distinguish them in this brochure, but I don't know if that is the standard Robin that it's finally showing, that white one at the back there. I'm not 100% sure. But what a great picture with them parked together in that sort of very 70s school type environment. It goes on to say here, the Reliant Robin Company Limited, Tamworth, Staffordshire, which is where they were produced. And like I say, printed in England, September 1973. So that is the Reliant Robin Mark I. It soldiered on to around about 1981, 1982, when the final sales were made. It did come back as a Mark II version in 1989 with a more squared headlight look. And then there was a Mark III version in 1999 with the front headlights were from a Vauxhall Corsa, so much more rounded again. And then finally in around about 2001 there was a company called B&N Plastics that made it for a year or two, and then that was the end of the Reliant Robin name. For me, the 1970s, the Mark I version is the most important version and certainly the version I prefer, because it really was the right car for the right time. And indeed, that's where most of the sales were made. Thank you once again for watching Quarterlight. I really enjoy making these videos. I hope you enjoy watching them. If you do, please do like and subscribe, as that helps the channel immensely. But for now, take care and goodbye.